So hey guys, and welcome to episode 8 of Weekly Kaiju Reviews. And this is another review of something I picked up over Christmas. This is a gift from my mom's side of the family. And it is the Sci-Fi Revoltech Moguera figure. Now, just quickly, this isn't Moguera from Godzilla, the Godzilla franchise. This is Moguera from a film called The Mysterians. Now, the Godzilla who appeared in the Heisei era of Godzilla was loosely based on this character, but they are two separate kaiju, technically. And this is a much earlier kaiju. But first of all, let's just take a quick look at the box. If you look up here, you've got powered by Revoltech. Now, if you don't know what Revoltech is, it's a sort of it's a company that specializes in specific joints, and they've kind of got this like revolutionary articulation system. And this is the first Revoltech figure I've had, so I don't know much about their other figures, but I'll just tilt it to the side here. You got the name of the sculptor, and it was produced by Kaiju. And I assume this says Moguera. I can't read Japanese, of course, but that is the name of the character. Here's a pretty menacing picture of Moguera here, nicely lit. On the side, you just got more information about the joints and stuff of Revoltech, and a link to the website of Revoltech. And on this side, you just have a picture of Moguera again, and just the name and the sculpting, that kind of thing. So on the back, you got a picture, two pictures of Moguera here, and some pictures of what comes in the box at the bottom. And here you've got more of a detailed look at what comes in the box, and some indications of articulation and stuff like that. What I like about this box is that it is a it's got a window, so you open this flap here and you've got some information here, like the narrative of the film. You've got the date the film came out and stuff here, and size of Moguera and things like that. And then you've got some pictures of Moguera in the film, as well as pictures of some other stuff from the movie. So that's really cool. You've got, you know, obviously Moguera here, the marker-like cannons, and the Mysterians themselves, so that's pretty cool. And over here it's a sort of window box to where the figure was. Now there's nothing left in here. I've taken everything out so we can have a look at it, but yeah, Moguera was in two pieces here, and then you've got all these accessories. And apparently you have a Revoltech reward chip, which has 10 points, which I assume is some kind of membership thing, which we'll have a look at. So if I just move the box aside, we can start to have a look at the figure. So here's Moguera. I've always liked the look of Moguera. He's actually one of my favorite, probably one of my 5 favorite kaiju of all time. Just because of how ridiculous he looks, but he's sort of so sinister at the same time. We have a look at the sculpt first of all. It's very nice. I'll just wait for that to focus. Yeah, you've got the different textures here and here with sort of drill nose, and his eyes are very nicely sculpted. This sort of jaw piece here with like the little collection tray is pretty cool. And the antennae are nicely done, and little lights and stuff on the end. That's really nice. The neck is again pretty cool, carries on the same sort of sculpting style, the same sort of texture there. Then you've got this body that's like made of like a, I don't know, it's always kind of looked like a tank track, but I think it's just meant to be sort of plating. Detailing on the arms there, and sort of pincer things. If we turn him around, you can see that it's a smooth back with a nice sculpt to it. It looks kind of like folded metal. It's pretty cool. You got this circular saw blade here, which is quite nicely sculpted. If we just have a look there, texture. Then we move down to his tail with these segments and the sort of tube there, which has got some detailing on the inside, which is pretty nice. And the legs carry on this same sort of corrugated steel effect. You got more of this blue, and then there's his feet. Now, I'll talk about the base in a minute as part of the accessories, but yeah, as far as sculpt goes, it's really nice. It's kind of spot on, despite a couple of lines for articulation, like by the neck here, and you know, these ball joints here on his arms. Despite the molding lines, he's actually quite accurate, and I think even out of some of the vinyl Moguera figures I've seen, this is one of the better looking Moguera figures. The vinyl ones don't have the molding lines, but the sculpt quality just isn't as good, and as far as I'm aware, there isn't a Monster Arts figure of this particular Moguera. So as far as the sculpting goes, this is, to the best of my knowledge, the best quality Moguera sculpt that there is around available at the moment. Now, going back to the head, we can start looking at some paint. The paint job is really nice. If we just wait for that to focus, there we go. It's kind of a sort of aged copper look to it, which is quite nice. The eyes there are painted, which are quite nice. It looks like lamps, which is more or less what they were, to be honest. Now, the lower part of the drill, you've got some shading, which is really nice. And this, all of this brass sort of colour stuff is all painted in the same way. Sort of brass, but made to look aged and as if it's rusting a little bit, because Moguera was kind of meant to be a bit of a battered old robot. Now, if we go down to the grey metal bits are the same. They also have a bit of like a stain to them, which is quite nice. It makes it look sort of dirty. And it reflects the brass quite well. Like there, if you look here, there's quite a lot of shading in this sort of golden colour, which makes it look a bit dirty and a bit worn, which is nice. It's a really nice touch. And again, the shading continues with this on here. It's very nicely aged, and I think it's difficult to make a figure look battle damaged or aged well, and I think this figure really pulls it off. And that's the same for the back. This kind of turquoisey colour here. And the circular saw blade is just a sort of gunmetal grey. There's not much detailing on that in terms of paint. It's just a sort of gunmetal grey thing here. And this again is just more or less silver. The bottom seems to have a bit of brown on it, as if it's sort of dusty or looks as if it's been dragged through some dirt, which is cool because obviously, you know, he is a digging robot. And in there, this little cap bit is sort of painted black. And then the feet and legs, more or less, are the same sort of paint style as the arms. So it's kind of simple, but it's mainly about the aging that they've pulled off really well with this figure. The variety of paint is just kind of simple, but as is his design, I suppose. But yeah, very nicely aged, and it's something you don't really see that often with figures. So yeah, I props to Revoltech in terms of their paint job, as it is pretty damn good. So I've taken him off his base, and we'll have a look at some articulation now. So first articulation point is at the neck, and it will sort of go 360 degrees there, but it's a double jointed neck. There's a joint at the top of the neck there, and a joint on the lower part of the neck. And you can hear the clicking of the Revoltech joints. If I just twist it back, does it? Yeah, you can see there, sort of. In fact, I'll take this out and you can have a look at how a Revoltech joint works. There's these sort of two pieces clipped together, and they click like that, and all the joints are like this, and they have a swivel as well. So, and all of the pieces have these holes, and they can just basically slot in like that. So yeah, the articulation on the neck's pretty good. Then these twist, but I think that's more because they come out. They were separate in the box. So I suppose you could classify that as an articulation point if you wanted to. Now, the box said something about the nose having articulation, but I can't get the nose on mine to twist, so I'm not quite sure whether I'm missing something there. But so here's another joint at the shoulder here. It's the usual clicking, and we'll rotate 360 degrees. The elbow also has the same joints, so we'll go about that far, and of course we'll rotate 360 degrees. Now it's the same for both arms, so I won't bother looking at that one. If we move them up, he has a joint here in his waist, so he can get a bit of movement. It's not a lot there, it doesn't click as much and it doesn't stay in position, but you can sort of move him around at the waist there. Now the tail is jointed up. If I take this out, the tail is jointed there. One of these joints. Now the tail's off. I'll just look at this separately, I suppose. The tail's nicely articulated. You've got a joint here, a joint here, and a joint here. So basically all of these different segments are articulated, and that's quite nice. And if you line them up there, they're sort of dirty on the bottom and nicely shining out on the surface there. Let's see if I can get that back in without knocking something off. There we go. So moving on to his legs, his ankles have a Revoltech joint, so you know, the usual up and down, 360 degree rotation. The knees are the same, but because of the way it's sculpted there, you can't get a lot of movement out of them. You can sort of bend them a little bit, but not a great deal, the knees. So yeah, I wouldn't try and force the knees too much. And then obviously at the hips, under all this sort of armour here, he has two more joints, and you can get quite a bit of movement out of them. You can get to about there, and about, yeah, that's sort of the default position. They don't go any further back than that, but they will come to about here, and they'll you know. So there's movement where it's needed, I think, is the point here. You've got all the joints are Revoltech joints, but some of them, I suppose, don't really need to be Revoltech joints because some of them just kind of work as their own thing. But no, in terms of articulation, I think Moguera's got a good thing going for him here. The articulation's nice and smooth. It's not too solid, and it's not too loose, and it is functional. And if you don't mind the sort of constant clicking with the articulation, then yeah, it's not a problem. I personally don't mind the clicking, so it doesn't bother me. But yeah, if you're alright with the clicking, then it is very, very functional and very nicely done. Now, Moguera came with quite a lot of accessories. As far as I know, all the Revoltech figures do, but I'm just going to have a look at these now. Here is the base that Moguera stands in, and if you look at the trees here, they're very nicely sculpted for something so small. This is very nicely done base. It's got two, you obviously can see where Moguera's feet are going to go there. You've obviously got all your Revoltech information on the bottom there. But yeah, it's really nicely done. If you look at the back there, that's especially nice. So it's a nice little thing for him to, if I just pop him on there now, and you can see what it looks like with his feet clipped in. So yeah, his feet clipping like that. Yeah, it looks really good. It's a really nice little base. It's a very nicely sculpted base, and it just really works very well. So yeah, I'm really happy with the base there. Similarly, one of the other accessories, here's another base. Not quite as detailed as the other one, but it's certainly not bad. And you'll notice it's got sort of tank tracks in it, and that's deliberate. That's not a molding problem. The reason it has the tank tracks is for this. This is the Mark-Light cannon, which is a weapon that featured in the Mysterians film. Sort of a big satellite dish-looking gun type thing. And it's carried around on these four like tanks. So what you do with this, obviously, if I can pick the base up, is you sort of just clip him in, clip the Mark-Light cannon in there, and yeah, the tire tracks lined up with it, and that's really cool. It just looks like it's been rolling about, gotten itself into position, and is ready to fire. Now there's a joint of articulation there, but if we just look at the Mark-Light cannon in a bit more detail, you can see it's very nicely detailed there. And again, this is so small, so it's really nice to see something like this that's so small but very, very nicely detailed. And that kind of scales up quite well if I just tilt the camera down a little bit there with Moguera. So you can see the size. This is quite a good, accurate. This fits in very well with him. That's in perfectly good scale. So yeah, the other accessories that came with this were a little nameplate for the figure here that says, got Moguera's name. Then in the brackets there it's the Mysterians and the date the film came out, which is 1957. This is sort of a hollow thing, but it has a clip, so you can clip it onto the base instead of the Mark-Light cannon if you want it. And it came with a tiny little Mysterian. Now these are the characters from the film who own Moguera. Now this isn't to scale, because if you look at this, you know, these tank track things are meant to be tank tracks, so they're meant to be massive compared to this Mysterian. So he does not, you know, that makes no sense. That would make this guy a kaiju in fucking scale with this thing. But I don't think this is meant to be in scale with Moguera. I think this is just like a little novelty thing that you get, just for a bit of novelty. I think it's just a little nicely sculpted little thing that just comes with it. But yeah, it is not in scale with Moguera at all. Moguera is much, much bigger than the Mysterians than this. So yeah, as much as I like this tiny little Mysterian, it's very... Wait for that to focus. It's very nicely sculpted, but it is out of scale, so I suppose it loses points for being out of scale. But yeah, its paint job on the sculpting is really good on that little thing. Also with that, we got a spare pair of antenna, which I've still in the box actually. You get this coin, which apparently comes with all the Revoltech figures, and it's just like a bit of a token, and I think it gives you 10, it says 10 Revoltech points, and I think it's basically just a bit of a like a reward scheme. Maybe you register this coin and you get some points that you can eventually build up and spend on a figure. I'm not quite sure. And one of the coolest things about this is you get this little box here. It's got some stuff on the bottom there. It says Revoltech container or Revo container. And what this is for is just a little box so you can put all your little bits in. Put the Mysterian in, the name tag, the spare antenna. It's got this little lid. So yeah, you won't lose your little bits, and the lid stays on. You can shake that about and the lid won't come off. So yeah, it's just a little thing that will keep your spare parts nice and safe. And I think that is a really good idea, because especially with a figure like this that has lots of little accessories and spare parts and things, you don't want to be losing them, but you don't want to, I suppose you don't want to be keeping them in the box the whole time. So you can keep them in this little tub, and the lid won't come off, and it'll keep everything together. So that's a really big bonus. I'm really happy with that. I think that's a really smart idea, and I wish a lot more figures did that. So in terms of pricing, this figure, like last week's X Plus email, because I got it as a Christmas gift, I'm sort of discounting the rule of under £30, just because this isn't something I'm recommending as affordable. This is just something I got for Christmas I wanted to show you guys. But yeah, this apparently cost £34 with £3 shipping on eBay, and that's kind of average. There's quite a few of these knocking around on eBay at the moment. I haven't seen any on Amazon, but yeah, on eBay they go for around 30 to 35 quid. So I think that's worth it for the articulation and stuff, and I would say it's really worth it for sort of collectors. I wouldn't recommend this if you were going to give it to like a kid or something, because as I said, there's a lot of small parts. It might break easily, might be a bit of a choking hazard, and it's an expensive figure, so I suppose I wouldn't recommend it to children. But if you're an adult collector, then I would recommend this, and I think 36 quid is a good price. I think that's pretty much spot on what I would expect to pay for this. So in terms of scaling, Moguera is roughly 5 inches tall. Just to illustrate that, here is the Bandai Creations Godzilla 1954. And if you put them side by side, you can see that he's roughly an inch taller. So yeah, Moguera stands around 5 inches. He will obviously fit in very well with your Revoltech figures, but as far as every other range, I don't know of many other ranges that are 5 inches. I know a lot of 4-inch Godzilla figure ranges and a lot of 6-inch Godzilla figure ranges, but none in the 5-inch scale. So I'm not quite sure whether this will fit in with anything really other than other Revoltech figures. But if you're a collector who doesn't really mind about fitting things in scale, then it doesn't really matter. It's a nice figure to have. Just to show another Moguera, this is the character that appeared in the Godzilla films that was named Moguera, and as you can see, he shares some design elements, like the drill face and the eyes and the sort of drill hands and a bit of a tail. But he is in fact a different kaiju, and this figure is a Trendmasters bendable figure. It's in the 4-inch scale. If we just compare it there, you can see, so yeah, that's the bracket. That's 4 inches there, he's 5, and that's 6 inches. So in terms of scale, he's a nice scale. I like the scale. I don't think it's too small or too big or anything like that. The scale's good. It's more of a, it's gonna have to sort of be a standalone figure in your collection, because nothing's really gonna scale up with it, because it's an obscure scaling. But as I said, it'll fit in with your other Revoltech figures. So if you're planning on collecting them, then it's not so much of a problem, I suppose. So would I recommend this figure overall? Absolutely, of course I would. It's a wonderful little thing. The first Revoltech figure I've had, and if it's anything to go by, then the other figures in the range I'm sure are just as fantastic quality. The quality's good. It's a good sturdy feeling thing. The paint job's nice and really nicely aged. The sculpting is pretty damn good, and the articulation, being a Revoltech figure, obviously the articulation's pretty spot on, pretty damn good. So the only real gripes I have with this figure are obviously the scaling's a little bit awkward, and I suppose in one way having so many little parts are cool, like all these little accessories and things are cool, but I suppose I'm just always a little bit cautious of losing them, so you might want to keep an eye on them and keep them in their little tub. But yeah, overall it's a little bit pricey for what it is. It's 36 quid, but yeah, it's a little pricey, but I would definitely recommend this figure. So thanks for sticking around, guys. I'm actually sort of in the process of doing a bit of a video review for Godzilla PS3, a follow-up to my first impressions video, which will probably be out late this evening as well as this review. So stick around for that. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next weekend for episode 9 of Weekly Kaiju Reviews. Thanks a lot, guys.